Welcome to Playing Above the Line, where we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, and community activists to get their thoughts and perspectives on leadership. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group, a business consulting and accounting firm focused on preparing clients for the future through innovation and positive growth. Welcome to Playing Above the Line. I'm Alan, your host, and I cannot tell you how excited we are today for our guest because we have been trying to get Sherry Sullivan on the show for these many weeks and months now, and of course she's had a little bit going on, so Sherry was finally able to come join us. And so Sherry, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being patient with my schedule. It's been a little busy the past 6 months.
It has. Well, you are the newly installed mayor of Fairhope, Alabama, and you've held that position since November 2nd, right, of 2020?
Correct, November 2nd.
Okay. All right, now look, and I've got to ask this question, and kind of tongue-in-cheek, but why in the world? I mean, number one, you have to spend money and time to campaign for a job that is not 8 to 5. It's probably a 24/7 commitment. All the hassles and headaches that come along with being the mayor of a very large and growing and vibrant city in South Alabama. Why did you decide that you wanted to do this?
It had always been a goal of mine to want to run for mayor. That started way back in high school in government class. I did a post during campaigning of a badge that I had for my government class that I found during quarantining when I was cleaning out a storage unit that reminded me of that. It was my badge from government class. It said Sherry Sullivan, Mayor, City of Fairhope. And I still have it in my desk drawer just to remind me why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So it was a long-time goal of mine. And I had decided, I had gone back and forth. I was working for Riviera Utilities, a great job, a great company, and really enjoyed what I was doing. And so I had kind of decided not to run. I thought, this is the path that God wants me on. This is where I'm going to be. Mm-hmm. And then the more I thought about it, it just, people who knew me well knew that I was struggling with the decision, that I had probably not made the best decision for me personally, but the best decision for me financially, and just from not having to work 24/7.
Yeah,
and
right.
It was really happened kind of quickly. I had somebody come to me and tell me that at the end of the day, that they knew me well enough to know that it wasn't going to matter what I had in the bank, what my retirement was, that what was going to matter to me is that I could have helped my community, and I had chosen not to. Mm. And so when that was said out loud to me, I was like, that's a lot of pressure. But I knew in that moment that I had to run. So I jumped out there and I did it. It was a leap of faith for me because I had to take a leave of absence from my job. I went 3 months without a paycheck, which was a big deal. Yeah. Especially knowing where I had been 2 years ago and had really been searching for this dream job that Riviera had offered me and the opportunity that I had there. So anyway, it was a big decision. It's one that, I don't regret. I tell people all the time, I said, even on my worst day in the city of Fairhope, it's okay because it's where I'm meant to be. Yeah. It's what I'm meant to be doing.
Well, kudos to whoever that was that said that to you, because that had to either be a really good friend or somebody who shoots straight, right? To
yes,
kind of to say that to somebody.
He does. And he knew me. He knows me very well. He knows my passion for serving my community. He knows how important Fairhope is to me, my love for Fairhope, how passionate I was about my job when I worked there, things that I wanted to see done that I did not get to complete, how the employees had become a family to me, and how I knew that things just weren't operating the way that I had envisioned. And again, knew how important that was to me and knew my personality well enough to kind of push me in that direction.
Yeah, so it sounds like at the end of the day, it really was just your love for your community and wanting to do something to give back to a community in town. I'm sure that's done so much for you that drove the decision, which is just great.
Absolutely. And I said during campaigning, a lot of it was not only just about Fairhope, but about the employees, the people that work for Fairhope who come in every day and do their job and do a great job and really serve the residents well. Part of it was for the employees, too, to make sure that they have a stable work environment, a safe work environment, and to let them know that they're valued as employees. Yeah.
So how do you come in and lead? And I didn't realize that Fairhope's a large, nice-sized city. I mean, a $75 million budget, I think you said before we started recording. So what's your philosophy? How do you come in on day one and lead the employees of Fairhope in the direction that you want them to go? What's your philosophy on leadership and how to lead them?
When you work for municipal government or any government, you know that there's going to be transition and change possibly every 4 years. And for me, it was just making sure they understood that my goal was not to come in and change things drastically, but I knew that there were inefficiencies. I knew that there were communication problems. I wanted to just ensure them, I guess, things weren't going to change that drastically, but I knew that there could be improvement. And to bring them to the table and say, these are the things that I see, what are you seeing, and bring me some solutions. Yeah. And that's what I'm continuing to do today. I told you earlier, I'm reminding myself that I've only been on the job 10 weeks. And that there's a lot to be done. I had made myself a laundry list before taking office, and so I knew some things that I wanted to have an immediate impact on. And so that's what I'm doing every day, just taking a bite out of the elephant and talking to the employees and making sure that they understand, that when they come to me, I want them to be part of these solutions. I want them to, because they're in the trenches every day. They're the ones that know what's happening and how we can make things better.
Yeah. Well, talk about your team, because I've got to imagine that trying to run a city the size of Fairhope and with all the different departments and whatnot, you can't do it on your own. So what, in your view, makes a good team member? What do you look for when you're looking to when you were looking to kind of put together your team to help you run and manage the city?
So above all, I look for honesty, I look for integrity, I look for a strong work ethic, and I look for good communication. That's one thing that I do not want, is to be surprised. So, and I tell them that from the beginning. I mean, if there's a challenge that we're facing, if there's an issue that we're having, if there's something that we're not doing that we should be doing, I want to know about it. I don't care what time of the day it is. I don't care what the issue is. As long as we are open and honest with each other, there's nothing that we can't tackle. And again, because inevitably, if it's something that is not being handled properly, it's going to make it to my desk. It's going to make it to my office. The citizens demand that, and they should. They hold us accountable. And I'm going to hold those managers accountable. But I want them to communicate that with me, and so I have the information when it finally does reach my office.
Yeah, surprises aren't really good, I wouldn't think, in your line of work.
No, they're not. They're not.
Yeah. We asked on your show primer for you to list some qualities of a good leader, and you hit effective communication, integrity, accountability. What about empathy? That's something that you mentioned. What about empathy is so important, do you think?
So I think especially when you're working in government, you work with people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
And, I think that sometimes we think that Fairhope's an affluent community, that we have a lot of people who move here who, want to bring ideas from other areas. But, I would ask our employees to make sure that they look at the overall picture. I mean, we have a lot of people who move to Fairhope and then lose a spouse or their kids move away because we're a retirement community. And I would just ask them to make sure that they are being empathetic, that they listen to the issues. They don't automatically assume that they know what's happening when this person's garbage isn't being picked up or whatever it is, and make sure they help find solutions to those issues, because some of these people are just lonely. They're just looking for somebody to talk to. It's really not about their garbage. It's not about the pothole that they have if they're calling in every day. So I would just tell them to, we all get busy. We all want to get things done, but to take a minute to listen and to make sure that you're really addressing the issue that you need to address.
Yeah. Well, and effective listening, active listening, I think would be important in your position. Because let's face it, I mean, you're really working with 3 different stakeholder groups at least, and probably more. And sometimes they're kind of diametrically opposed to one another. So you've got your city council that you work with, you've got your employees that you're working with at the city, and then you've got your constituents, right, the people who live in the communities. They've all got wants and needs, and sometimes they might not exactly all line up. So how do you juggle that? How do you prioritize? How do you kind of determine what problems or issues need to be addressed right now and what can wait? I mean, how does that work? That's got to be a tough juggling act sometimes.
It is a challenge, and I guess my mind goes directly to like planning. Planning is a prime example. I mean, we have a planning staff. You have a developer who comes in. They want to build this, nice, grandiose development, which is beautiful. It equals money. It equals time for the developer. And then you have planning, who has all these rules and regulations, and you want to support your employees. You want to support the policies that have been established by either the Planning Commission or the council. But at the end of the day, you're also supporting that developer because they are a constituent. There's somebody who's investing in your community. There's somebody who's wanting to do the right thing. But sometimes the development doesn't match up with the plans, and the staff may deny recommendation for it, or the council may not be in favor of it. But to me, it's just bringing all the folks to the table and saying, how can we work out a solution? What's best for Fairhope, not now, but even 10 to 20 years down the road? And how can we make things better? How can we make the processes better? So, again, I think communication plays into all those roles.
You mentioned that word a lot, and it really does all come back in your role, especially to communication, because if you're not, number one, listening to the people that coming to you, but number two, also communicating out your vision and your ideas, you can get bogged down real quick.
Yeah, and I think as a politician, and I hate to call myself that, but I guess I am, I think that sometimes, I think everybody runs for office for the right reason. I think where you get yourself in trouble is along the way that you forget who you serve. And again, part of that is communication and listening. And I think if a politician loses a race and they're like completely dumbfounded, you're like, well, you obviously were not listening to the people that you serve, because you should have a clear... Your evaluation should be clear to you all the time, because you should hear from your constituents. You should hear from your city council, your employees, or whoever if you're doing a bad job. You should know
no doubt.
that.
We kind of touched on this a little bit off air, but talk about campaigning in a pandemic. The election was when, in August, is that right? August. And so the pandemic in 2020 started way back in, March or April, whatever theory you subscribe to. So, I mean, you always think about politicians going around shaking hands and kissing babies, right? Well, I don't think there was a whole lot of baby kissing and handshaking going on. So how did that look? What did you have to do to reach the people and get your message out in the midst of not really being able to gather in large crowds?
Right. We had to make some modifications, and it was a challenge. You did the in-home socials where you could social distance. Most of those were done outdoors in people's yards or in common areas and subdivisions where you could mask and social distance. Obviously, you didn't go door to door, or I did not. I think in some of the other communities on the Eastern Shore that happened, but I just didn't feel comfortable going door to door. I don't like people knocking on my door. Yeah. So, I didn't mind doing a door hanger or mailing something, but I did not want people coming to my door. The other thing is the debating. Debates were hard to do because you could not have gatherings over of a certain size. So most of those were done virtually. Okay. And again, when you're doing things virtually, I mean, I obviously didn't have an office. I was unemployed, so I was working from my home. Right. So I had, computer screens set up. I had these huge boxes. I had borrowed another monitor from a friend, and kind of positioning things at my dining room table. So you're always worried about the technical difficulties and about the dog barking or the outside noise. So it was a challenge. Yeah. It really was. Yeah. But, I mean, it was great. I enjoyed it. I told you off air, I guess, that, it's like the never-ending job interview and that it's exhausting. And it was. Campaigning was a lot harder than I ever thought it would be, but it was. Well,
you must have done a really good job because really unusual in my opinion, but you won without a runoff, which means you got more than 50% of the vote the first go-around. So that was a pretty overwhelming, I think, endorsement of your platform and what you've said that you wanted to do and that kind of thing. So congratulations on that. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. So talk about influences. I mean, you obviously have a passion for your community and for serving others. So any influences that you can point to that really kind of stand out to you in your life?
Obviously I think everybody says their parents, and I mean, I believe that's true for me too. But growing up here, my parents volunteered quite a bit in our community, whether it was with the church or they were volunteering for youth softball, whatever it might be. They were out there volunteering and putting their blood, sweat, and tears into things that mattered to us. Mm-hmm. So I think that kind of instilled that volunteerism to me. And then when I started working for Thomas Hospital, I was doing the community relations program. So again, that gave me the outreach. I was always involved in high school. I was in junior civitan, and then, you go to college, you're in a sorority. So you have that aspect of service. So everything that I've done, I guess, in my adult life has evolved around service projects and community organizations or civic organizations. Yeah. So you get from something what you put into it. And I think that's the same thing with our community. If you're willing to give back, then I think you are blessed tenfold.
Yeah, I know. There's no doubt about that. Speaking of college, where did you go to school?
I went to Troy.
Okay. What was your major?
Troy State. I actually did not complete my education.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you remember about those college years? Those years get longer and longer as we go, but can you think back and remember kind of maybe what you learned or maybe some impact those years had on you?
I think the biggest thing for me is I still have a great group of friends from going to school. We still travel together every year, and building those relationships. I think that's the first place that you understand how relationships that you make there can impact you the rest of your life. Yeah. And, people talk about that like with sororities and that kind of stuff. The contacts that you make there will open doors for you. And for me, with the friends that I've made there, I mean, we're from all over the country. Mm-hmm. We make an effort every year to get together. There's usually about 20 of us. Wow. And next year, our trip's to Nashville because we didn't get to go this year because of COVID. So real excited. Everybody's already talking about, our trip in July. Mm-hmm. And I think just maintaining those relationships and learning how to do that over the years, like staying in touch and how important those relationships can become, I think that's one of the greatest things that you learn in college in your adult life.
Yeah, and really it's more so in college. And I'm sure that maybe we all have some friends from high school, especially if you come back and live in a community where you went to high school. But really, you're right. I mean, those college friendships are really the first kind of lifelong friendships that most people forge.
Well, you learn to live with somebody too, which is different. Yeah. So, and that's one of the things that's going to follow you through the rest of your life is learning to live with somebody other than your siblings and your parents. Yeah. So I think that's part of forging those lifelong relationships. Yeah, there's no doubt. Well, obviously, family is very important to you. So I've got to think that being you're a wife, you're a mom, you're a mayor. So how do you balance those? Because I know that if you let it, I would think being the mayor of Fairhope, Alabama could be a 24/7 job that you never turn the switch off, right? No, well, so, I mean, what does that look like for you in your life right now? I'm not a wife, so I can take that one off the table, which is good. which is good. But so I have my dog and I have my daughter.
Okay.
So, and I have my parents and my family. But no, it's a struggle. It's a balance. I have to remind myself every day that what's on my desk will be there. Yeah. And again, I had somebody remind me to not give up the things that are important to you. You know, I've always been involved like in the Arts and Crafts Festival. And last year we didn't get to have the festival. So this year I was set to be the chair of that. And I'm still planning on doing that with a lot of help. But don't give up the things that you enjoy is what I've been told. And, you know, spending time with my friends and family, doing my volunteer work. I do social media for our church, that kind of stuff. So I don't want to lose sight of those things. I want to make sure, especially now during the holidays, that I do all the things during the holidays that are important to me. So I think just not losing sight of the things that you do enjoy and making sure you find that balance is really important.
Yeah, that's great advice. How old is your daughter?
She's 30.
30. Okay, so what's her name?
Abby.
All right, so what did Abby think when you said, all right, Abby, I'm running for mayor of Fairhope? What was her reaction? How did she react to that?
So she was good with it. Abby was good with it. My parents were concerned, obviously, because they worried about putting yourself out there and there could be disappointment in the end. So they worried about it. But she was great. She was, you know, one of my biggest cheerleaders. She was there beside me through the campaign. Now she refuses to go to downtown with me or to the grocery store because it's a really long trip. But every time she's like, really, Mom? Do we have to spend an hour in the grocery stores? No, but she was great. She helped organize some of it and was there with me all along the way.
So do you get stopped everywhere you go in Fairhope?
Yes.
For the most part?
Which is unusual. I mean, I don't mind getting stopped. Obviously, I grew up here. I know a lot of people. But what's weird is when strangers come to you, they're like, are you the mayor? I have on a mask and sunglasses. How did you, you know? So, yes, it's still a little strange to me for people to call me mayor or to, you know, approach me in the grocery store because to me, I'm still just Sherry. Yeah. And to all the people that I love and know, that's who I am. So it's even weird at the city because some of the employees are like, what should I call you? And I'm like, well, I can tell you what not to call me, but, you know, Sherry or Mayor is fine. Either one
of those is fine.
Whichever you prefer. So
I'm just curious and for my own knowledge, but so if you're in Publix or you know walking in downtown Fairhope, what do people come up and say? Or is it always complaints, or do you get some of those, hey, good job, Sherry, I appreciate what you're doing, or is it a mixed bag? I mean, what do people say to you when they walk up to you on the street?
No, usually everybody's very kind, very positive. You know, thank you for running. We appreciate you doing it. I hope things are going well. You know, that kind of stuff. I did have somebody in a restaurant recently. I walked in, and it was a local restaurant. I walked in, and they were like, "You're the mayor," and I said, "Yes," and he's like, "You look fatter on TV." So I was like, well, thank you. I did that. Thank you, I guess. I'm not sure how to respond to that, but that's exactly what they said. So I hate that cameras don't have their slimming lens on when I'm on them, but yeah, he was pretty nice to point that out for me that I looked fatter on TV.
Well, then you truly do hear everything. That's
you do hear everything.
Yeah, that confirms that in my mind. So let's talk about your vision for Fairhope. And I know that you'll have a long and successful career as the mayor here, but when your time is up and you move on, what do you want people to look back and say that Sherry did for the city of Fairhope after you're gone?
Right now, there's just so many challenges with infrastructure. I mean, I'd really like to be known for the upgrades that we make that could bring us 50 years into the future, because right now we're growing so fast. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to almost wrap your head around that growth and to know where we need to be. But making sure the upgrades to the infrastructure are taken care of the way that they need to be to make sure we're ready for that growth that's going to continue happening. Mm-hmm. I hope that it continues happening. You know, other than that, I guess I just, you know, I want to be a leader who's remembered for being respectful, who treated our employees well, made them feel valued, and who really had a love for Fairhope and always put the needs of our community and our citizens first and foremost.
Yeah, that's great. And I think people have seen that because obviously you were elected by, in this day and time, but quite a large margin. So I know that people see that passion for your work in the city of Fairhope, so I appreciate that. All right, well, let's get into a couple of fun questions before I let you go. I know you've got a budget that's due tomorrow, so we're not going to keep you too much longer, but I do want to ask you a couple of things. If I opened up Spotify or iTunes or looked at the presets on your radio station, what's in heavy rotation? What do you like? What's your go-to music?
So I'm going to pull out my phone because, you know, Spotify gives you a recap.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm not one of those people who are kind of pigeonholed into any type of music. And so I love that every year they choose my top songs for me, because I go anywhere from, y'all are going to think this is crazy, I go anywhere from Crystal Gale, you know, Talking in Your Sleep, to Uncle Cracker, to Earl Thomas Conley, to Nelly.
Wow.
You know, I mean, Demi Lovato. I'm kind of all over.
That is
Brantley
one
Gilbert.
of the.
I am all over the page.
I think Sherry wins the award for the most eclectic playlist because Nelly and Crystal Gale. That's
and I also love gospel music. So I'm sitting there listening to my Spotify, and I've just got it on shuffle, and I go from again Nelly or Demi Lovato to all of a sudden Alan Jackson playing Blessed Assurance. I'm like, I'm just not so sure that's that's a great thing, especially on a workout regimen. You're sitting there and all of a sudden something like that comes up. But I like to listen to just pretty much all kinds of music. But old classic country I love. You have Charlie Pride and Kenny Rogers, all those folks that I remember my dad listening to, so I just love it.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. That's great. All right, let's finish up with a little this or that, and we're going to throw in a couple of holiday-themed questions, since we're around the Christmas season and all, so then we'll see what we get. All right, cookies or cake?
Cookies.
All right, cat or dog?
Dog.
Pop music or rock music?
Rock.
Pancakes or waffles?
Depends on if they're from Waffle House. It's my dad's pancakes and waffles from Waffle House.
Fair enough. I like it. All right, morning or evening?
Morning.
Reindeer or elves?
Reindeer.
Text message or phone call?
Text message.
Real or artificial tree?
Real.
A library or museum?
Museum.
A summer or winter?
Summer.
Clear lights or colored lights on the Christmas tree?
Clear.
Hot cocoa or hot tea?
Both, actually.
Okay.
I do both of them.
All right. Book or movie?
Movie, preferably, when we can go back.
Okay. All right. Christmas lunch or Christmas dinner?
Both.
Start at lunch and finish up at dinner, right?
Breakfast,
I like that.
lunch, and dinner.
Comedy or horror?
Comedy.
Hamburgers or hot dogs?
Hamburgers.
Boat or plane?
Plane.
All right. Reading or writing?
Reading.
Presents on Christmas Eve or presents on Christmas morning?
Both. But Christmas morning.
Okay. Superman or Batman?
Batman.
Fruits or vegetables?
Vegetables.
And burgers or tacos?
Tacos.
All right, very good. So we learned all about Sherry in 30 seconds. That's great. Well, Sherry, thank you. I know your schedule is crazy, and so the fact that you took some time to come and visit with us means a lot, so we appreciate that. And thank you for everything that you do for Fairhope, and we are looking forward to seeing what you accomplish in the next 4 years.
Thank you
for
so
joining
much.
us.
Thanks for having me.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. It definitely helps us in the ratings, and it also makes it easier for other folks to find the podcast. And as always, a big thank you to producer and editor Carrie Wolf. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Avizo Group. If you want to know more about who we are and what we do, you can visit our website at avizogroup.com. That's AVIZO group.com. You can also check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.